All right. So this is video 3, working on applying quadratic expressions and equations to real situations, and then using the quadratic formula to as our direct path to solving these things. So in this problem here, and this is actually a very, very real and I think underutilized application of polynomial expressions and quadratics, whatever you want to call it, that's really powerful. All right, and so in this question it says a farmer has 1,000 feet of fencing in a very big field. She needs to enclose part of the field in a rectangular pen as shown below. What dimensions of the field will make the area of the field 25,000 square feet? All right, so the thing is, you know, we know that, well, we have to know a couple things in order to do this problem, all right? So the first thing is we have to know if we're making the area of the field. Well, the field is a rectangle, right? So if it's a rectangle, right, and we're talking about the area of the field, well, then that probably means that what we should do is we should remember that the area of a rectangle is length times width, right? So length times width is my area. So I need to figure out what my length and my width are, and I know that once I figure that out, that that's going to be equal to this 25,000 right here, right? This 25,000 square feet that we have for the area of this pen, right? It's going to be a pretty big pen, but the area of this pen. So we've got, so they started to label this, right? And they said, well, let's call this X, and I'm assuming this is the width because it's the shorter one. This is the length, right? Well, if this is X over here, then that means that over here, this is also going to be X, okay? So if you think about the, if we're using 1,000 square feet of, 1,000 feet of fencing, right? Well, that's basically the distance that we can go around the field, right? Which is another way of saying that's my perimeter, right? And so you got to think about how can I use what I know about perimeter of this in this 1,000 to maybe force figuring out what the length is or writing an expression for length. Well, we can. So I know if this is X and X, I know that if I add these two together, and then I add these two together, right, my length and my length, and we'll put something in here in a second, right? When I figure that and this out, I know that when I put those together, right, so I'm just going to leave those as a box, right, that's got to equal 1,000, right? So, well, I can combine these, right, and that gives you 2x, and then I know this is 2, and I'm just going to leave it kind of like this, like 2 boxes, right? So that means that the 2 boxes, right, is going to be equal to whatever it takes when I take this and I subtract whatever that length is. And if you used a number for this, it would make sense. If you said, well, what if the width is 75? So if this were 75, right, that means this is 75. So you would add those together and you'd say 75 plus 75 is 150. And then you'd go 1,000 minus 150 gives me 850. And then you would say, oh, well then I'm going to split that in 2 to get 425 for each one, right? Because that's what you do, right? And so this is the same kind of thing, except that we're dealing with kind of unknowns here. So 2 boxes is equal to 1,000 minus 2x. And then to figure out what one of these is, right, this one, which is basically my length, right? So your length is going to be equal to this basically divided by 2. So it's 500 minus x. And that is what we are looking for to go in right here, is this 500 minus x. Okay? And now, once I have that established, then it becomes basically a working with the numbers thing. All right? So this is what I know now. Now I know that my, sorry, I keep tapping the wrong thing. Now I know that my length is 500 minus x. I know that my width is x. I know that area is length times width. So, and my area is 25,000 square feet, and that is equal to my length times my width. Well, let's just put length in. We got 500 minus x times my width, which is x. All right. So now let's work on this. Let's see what we can do with this. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to multiply it by that, and I'm going to multiply it by that. So 25,000. I said 2,500 before. I apologize. 500x minus x squared, because that's what you get when you distribute this x to both of these. And now I remember this has to look like the thing we're always looking for is this ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, right? That's what we want. So that's what we're looking for, and we have to recognize that, okay, this has to go over here. So if I subtract this from this side, I have to subtract it, oops, that's a really ugly 2, from this side as well, right? So this is going to give me 0 is equal to, well, let's put this first, negative x squared plus 500x, so I'm putting it in standard form like this, then minus 25,000. All right? So now I can use my quadratic formula, right? Minus b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2 times a. So I'm going to take these and use that. Okay, so I'm going to switch to a different color here. So I know that a is going to be -1. I know that b is going to be 500. And I know that c is this giant negative number here, it's 25,000. All right, so I'm going to put this in my formula here. So we're going to get x is equal to negative, I put 500 in because that's b, right? Plus and minus the square root of, I should have written this down a little lower, 500 squared minus 4 times -1 times my c, which is that negative, sorry I missed that, the negative 25,000, all over 2 times a, which is 2 times -1. All right, so now we got negative 500 plus and minus square root of, well, this is 250,000. Okay, 5 times 5 is 25, and then your double zeros. And then negative times negative times negative gives me a negative, right? Because there's 3 negatives. So 2 of them cancel with each other. 4 times 25 is 100, and then tack those zeros on. So this is what you get. So minus 100,000 all over -2. So this is going to give me negative 500 plus and minus the square root of 150,000, because that's what 250,000 minus 100,000 is, all over -2. So let's figure out what our discriminant is on this. So these are these can get kind of long, right? As far as like the amount of calculating and things you got to do. Pretty straightforward, but long. All right. So this gives me 387 point, we're just going to call it 0.3. All right, so let's rewrite this as negative 500 plus and minus 387.3 all over -2. So we're going to have 2 solutions. We're going to have negative 500 plus 387.3 over -2, and then we're going to have negative 500 minus 387.3 over 2. And so looking at this, I can see that these are both going to give me positive numbers, right? I'm going to have 500 . So this one, when I put it into my calculator, it gives me 56.35. All right. And then this one over here is going to give 443.65. All right, and so you're probably thinking, well, there's two answers. How do we know which one is right? Well, the thing is, we solved for x, right? And if you remember the drawing, we had x and we had 500 minus x. So if we solve for x, and x is this, well, we have 1,000 feet of fencing total. If you add this together, if you add this one together here, that's going to give you 880 some feet of fencing just for the widths, which is only going to leave a little over 100 for this. Well, wouldn't that kind of make this the length then, and the other one the width? It's kind of understood that the width is usually the shorter measure, right? So in that case, this doesn't really make sense. And instead, we're going to use this one right here, this 56.35. So let's say it's 56.35 wide, right? I don't remember what the units are. Feet, right? So it's feet wide, right? And then for my length, right? So feet wide. For my length, right? You would just go 500 minus 56.35. So that's going to give you 5, 6, 3. So that's going to give you 543.65 feet, right? Or sorry, 443.65, which is this number. Now it makes sense, right? It didn't make sense in that context before, but now it makes total sense, right? So these are your answers. Those are the dimensions, right? 56.4 and 443.6, right? Or 56.3 and 443.7, however you want to do it. But that's how that works, all right? Thanks for tagging along with this. It was a long problem. There's a lot to do with it, but it's hopefully not too confusing. Just a lot of computation. So appreciate it.